Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chiscool Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Whiteout Survival, I want to talk about Gen 2 heroes. The real, about which ones you should invest in and why, and the things that I wish I had known before I started working on Gen 2. Because, like you, I was a new player to the game. I've been playing now for about 6 weeks. I'm at 77 million power and growing. Consider subscribing. This is a whaled account, and a part of the reason I whale in these games is because I've actually used the different things that are available in the game, and so I understand the pros and cons, not just hypothetically, but because I've used these things. And so in this video, I really want to share with you what I wish I had known, as I said earlier, about Alonso, what I wish I had known about Flint, what I wish I had known about Philly, because I had these assumptions going in, and a lot of them were just wrong. And I couldn't find the information I needed in time for when this gen showed up. So if you're just getting into Gen 2, or you're looking at Gen 1 and deciding what really is the right thing to invest in, you've come to the right video. So let's start all the way up at the top with Alonso. And we'll go hero by hero. This is not going to replace hero guides for each of these heroes, which I will go make. But I will try to share with you some of the logic and some of the reason behind why you might pick one of these heroes and go work on them. And the cool thing about Alonso is that if I were picking any one hero from this gen to say, man, this guy seems like a slam dunk, this guy seems like a slam dunk investment. Not only is he a beast in arena, which is important-ish, but also he's a beast when you battle other players in Expedition. So let's review his skills, and we can talk about why that's the case very briefly. First and foremost, let's talk about Exploration. For Exploration, he does big AoE damage. I mean, in arena, that's just very good. And he immobilizes the enemies for 1.5 seconds. Seems good. But from there, we get another skill. Alonso shoots a harpoon with tsunami-like force at a target, dealing area of effect damage. It's not nearly as much as this big skill over here, but it is more frequent, I think, and we'll go get a look at that. By the way, if you know the rhyme or reason behind how frequently like skills like this shoot, the second skill, let me know down below in the comments. I'm very, very eager for that. And then the third skill is Alonso's heavy harpoon can do some damage. Stunning targets. When maxed out, it is for half a second. Every other 5 strikes when it's maxed out. And every time you put a skill up into this, it's going to increase the effectiveness of this skill, either reducing the number of attacks necessary to launch the stun, and also increasing the stun time, which is honestly a big deal. The final skill we need to get a look at is on his widget, and Alonso knows how to share the spoils of success with his friends. His fresh fish meals heal your weakest ally by 10% with each basic attack. Oh my god. Literally every time this dude attacks, he is healing 10% of their health. And it's the weakest hero that he's healing. That is so busted, all right? We'll get a look at this in action, but really, really strong, okay? So he is a huge upgrade from what you were using before as a marksman, as your main hero, Zinman. I would not also run Zinman. Zinman hits the bench. He was mid at best, in my opinion, in the arena, and it is such a huge upgrade to go to Alonso. And with regard to rallying or garrisoning with them, Alonso is a rallying hero. So when you run a rally on the widget over here, he increases your troops' lethality, which is a big deal. By the way, the max of this is 15% for each heal, and the max of this is 15% lethality. So that's a pretty big deal. He is a rally-oriented hero. Zinman is a garrison-oriented hero. In other words, when he's defending stuff, he gives his bonuses. So if we look at his other skills, we can go through them very briefly. He's got a 20% chance to stun the target for 1 turn. Alonso's Indomitable Will grants all troops attacks a 20% chance of reducing damage dealt by 50% for all enemy troops for 2 turns. Huge damage reduction to the enemy. And then lastly, Alonso coats weapons with lethal toxins, granting all troops attack a 50% chance of dealing 50% more damage. So on average, 25% more damage, which is consistent with, other heroes that we've seen. But long story short, he's really good for rallying. And if you're garrisoning, Zinman ends up being a really good pick because his widget is defensive in nature. And for those that didn't know, it seems like the widgets are doing a multiplier on your percentage. In other words, this wouldn't take you from 500 to 515% attack. It would take you from what? 500 to 575? Maybe higher? I don't know the exact mechanic. I need to look into it. But it's a huge boost, is the point that I'm trying to make. These widgets are nuts. So you can invest in Zinman and get a lot of value from him beyond Gen 1, which is what people told me. They're like, bro, you could use him in Gen 2. And I think that's true. For garrisoning especially, he's good in Gen 2. I thought that what I would do is just move all in on Alonso and call it a day, which is like fine. I like sort of skipped Zinman. Obviously, his widget is 2, and I'm going to max out the widget on Alonso, which means I'll use Alonso for rallying. I'll use him for garrisoning. It is simpler that way, and to some extent, you need to pick and choose. Because, look, when I say I wouldn't necessarily invest in a hero in a certain generation, I mean, if you're spending money in the game, what I'm really saying is reallocate that to something else potentially, right? Because there's a lot you can work on. Your hero gear, your chief gear, and okay? All right, so that's Alonso. Next, we move on, and I'm going to show you all this in action. All right, we're gonna do some battles, and I'll show you. But then we talk about Flint. All right, and the weird thing about Flint is I thought I got 2 max infantry heroes, bro. Why do I need a third? I don't need to work on Flint, which is not true. I need him for arena because he's so good in the front line. He's by far better than anything else you can do. And also, he is a garrison hero. So his widget is going to be for defending stuff. And the widget that you get on Geronimo and Natalia is for attacking stuff. So in an ideal world, you might have Geronimo, like I do, completely maxed out for attacking, and then you still would want Flint at some point entirely maxed out for defending, and he's very good for that. All right? So let's get a look at these skills and talk about why that's the case. The reason he is a beast in the arena is because actually of his second skill. His second skill makes it so that when he dips below 50%, he can gain an upwards of 40% of his health back. That is busted. So he is designed to soak damage. Okay. If you're lucky, you'll get an activation of this skill. Flint's fire-breathing attack deals it's 84% damage every half a second and amplifies damage taken by the target by 30% for 2 seconds. So he's going to debuff enemies and also do a bit of damage. Seems good. The final skill here is the warmth of Flint's fire represents hope in troubling times, boosting your allied hero's attack speed. I don't exactly know how this works. If it's just like a persistent 7% boost, I would assume it only works while he's alive. And, you know, he's going to die pretty quickly because he's in the front line. But either way, a 7% boost to everybody's attack speed is kind of a big deal. It's not quite a 7% DPS boost overall, but it's nice. All right. So that covers his exploration skills, with the exception of one, his widget. His widget says, once released, the fires of Flint's vengeance cannot be quenched, boosting attack by 8% until the end of battle once Incinerator is triggered. So Incinerator is the skill that gives him that 40% health recovery. It can only happen once over the course of the battle, but like he drops below 50%, he jumps right back up to 90%. And this will make it so he has an 8% attack boost until the end of combat. When maxed, it's a 24% attack boost. All right. Now, with regard to his skills for expedition, we can review these very quickly. Every flame, no matter how small, can ignite a roaring fire. Flint grants all troops attacks a 20% chance of setting the target on fire, dealing 40% damage per turn for 3 seconds. I don't know how to evaluate that. That seems good, but I don't know how to compare it to other things. Flint's fire not only dispels the cold, but also ignites the passion for battle, increasing attack of all troops by 25%. So that's easy to evaluate. 25% attack for all troops is just very good. Flint's burning vengeance threatens all foes, granting all troops attacks a 50% chance of increasing enemy troops' damage taken by 50%. So this is kind of like a 25% damage boost, but it's a debuff instead. All right, and then his widget, as I showed you earlier, is specifically for defense. All right. So defender troops attack is increased by 15%. That's one of those multipliers where it's more like going from 500 to 575 than 500 to 515. When I first saw these, I was like, oh, 500 to 515. Why is that such a big deal? But no. And the only reason I use 500 is because it's like a easy-ish number to understand. And, an early game player might be around there, depending on how active they are, how much they're spending, etc. So Flint is really good. Looking into Flint again and the way that I sort of think about him, I do want to get value spinning the wheels. So I did use some universals onto him to take him to 4 stars right after I finished the first wheel. But from there, I'm going to slow roll him on wheels. And slow roll, for some definition, I mean, I gem spun Flint on all 3 days, which was kind of nutty, but that's what I did. And I would probably do that again until he's maxed. But it all depends on your level of spend. The wheel is such insane value that if you can afford to get him over a longer window of time, yeah, I mean, obviously just spin the first day to 120. And that is way better value over time. Way better. Like the value of the tiered rewards and the lucky spins is insane. You do get him from lucky spins. Alonso comes from the Hall of Heroes. So the unlock you have to buy. The rest you can, in fact, use your general mythic shards if you want to. And then there's Philly, who is arguably the skippable hero of this generation, which is unfortunate because the moment I unlocked her, I took her to 4 stars because I thought she's the GOAT. I thought she would be so amazing, and she is good, but not the game changer that I thought she would be. So Philly is a healer, which I thought would be busted for Arena, and in the meta that I seem to be playing in, she's just fine. Maybe I'll replace Molly with her, but I don't think so. Molly's AoE and stun is just too good. And if that's true, I just don't have room for her on my arena team. Triple infantry seems to be the sort of way to go right now. So let's talk about what Philly is doing and why she has a lot of potential, but I found her to not be as punchy in Gen 2. And again, if I were going through and giving myself advice, I would say, like, yes, absolutely double down on Alonso. That's amazing. Flint, super, super good. Happy with all my choices there. Would have invested more in his widget. And I would have considered skipping Philly in favor of putting all that money toward other things. So let's talk about, first of all, what she does, and then we'll get into like why it is that she was just fine, but not totally game changing. So skills, all right? Let's start with the arena and exploration. She is a healer. So Philly's advanced medical training immediately restores health equal to 280% of her attack to all friendly heroes. Big heals, all heroes. Seems really good if you're taking lots of damage on all your heroes and they're all still alive. Second skill, a master on first aid at the point of death. Philly immediately restores health equal to her attack 140% to the weakest friendly hero. I'm not exactly sure what this does. Maybe when she dies, she restores 140% to the weakest. I don't know if it's like when they're about to die. I think it's when she dies. Anyways, a heal when she's on her way out, it's fine, but not as like game changing as I thought it would be. I thought it would be totally nuts, which is what I would describe the second skill of Flint to be, when he heals back up from like 50% to 90%. I don't think it's that crazy. And that brings us to the final skill. Philly poisons the target, disabling the enemy for 1 second while dealing 196% damage. So she does have a way to deal damage. And the final skill from the widget is Philly has done much to raise the strength of her herbal skills, increasing their healing effects by 40%. She just gets a stronger heal. What I found of Philly is that I deeply missed the additional DPS. And I do think that if I had maxed out widgets on my infantry frontline, that it would be better. In other words, if you have gone 100% all in on having all your infantry frontline be super tanky and live really long, then a healer is really, really good. Failing having done that, which is my situation, where, remember, I thought I could maybe skip working on stuff for Natalia so her widget's low. Instead, I did all in on Geronimo. But it turns out Geronimo's not a frontliner. He's a backliner anyways. Like, I think there's some really cool stuff you can do with Philly. But for your average lineup, I don't know that the value was there. Okay? Now, that said, when we look at her expedition skills, She is powerful. My intention is to have worked on her instead of Molly. Now I'm getting kind of antsy. I'll probably do her anyways because you can get her from the daily special offer. You can get her from a bunch of other events as well that are competitive. But we haven't had those yet, but like SVS Prep is, as I understand it, one of those places. We just review these skills really quickly. So Philly's Secret Remedy strengthens the soldiers, increasing attack by 15 and defense by 20 for all troops. I have been told that this makes her viable as a joiner. I can't speak to that because I haven't used her that way, but that's what I'm told. I still think I'd rather probably just be joining with like Jesse or Patrick, but I'll have to figure that out. The next skill over here, Philly uses her Secret Tonic to enhance the warrior's strength, granting all troops attacks a 25% chance of dealing 200% damage. So this is another way of saying that you get I think a 25% damage boost, right? Let's think about this for a second. How does this work? You have a 25% chance of dealing, maybe it's a 50% damage boost on average, right? So every 4 seconds this will trigger. I mean, that ends up being an average of 50% damage up. Am I misunderstanding? But that seems insane, actually. And the next skill, Philly coats weapons with a mysterious fungal extract, granting all troops 20%, attacks have a 20% chance of stunning the target. Oh, okay. 20% chance of a stun is, for whatever reason, not a very popular skill. Okay, and the final skill is for defending. Philly imparts her basic first aid care techniques, increasing defender troops' health by an upwards of 15%. All right? So the reason that I'm lukewarm on Philly is not only because I found her not to be all that transformative for my arena team. In fact, I don't know. It like didn't move the needle for me in the way that Alonso absolutely game-changingly, immediately noticeably did. But the other thing I will point out is that she's only an incremental upgrade over Molly, who is also a garrisoning hero. So they're both Lancers. They're both garrison. Is she better than Molly? Yes. When maxed out, she'll have, I think, 200-ish% attack, and Philly will have 240. Obviously, the widget, I think, slightly better. But at the end of the day, it would have been nice if I had gone in with the plan of like day one maxing or very early maxing Molly, including her widget, rather than kind of where I'm at now, where I'm like, gee, I'm going into Gen 2 and I'm still using her in arena and I probably won't take her out of the arena. And we're about to fight for Sunfire Castle. And like, I'm probably going to use her there too. And could have just maxed her on day one and been enjoying it this whole time. Okay, not exactly day one, but like earlier is the point I'm trying to make. So the advice that I got going into Gen 2 after I already invested in Philly was, bro, just skip Philly. And I was like, okay, sure. Now, having more heroes is always valuable because there are plenty of game modes and times where your heroes are out and you need another set in your city to defend, or you're doing something like Foundry where having multiple combinations of heroes is good. So I will get value out of all of these heroes, but were I to go back in time, I would tell myself to consider shifting, focus into Alonso and specifically Flint, and Philly could skip, but honestly, like, getting the daily special offer feels very high value to me right now, so I'm not mad about it. The only thing I really sort of wish I'd done differently is that I hadn't invested in her exploration skills, because I really need those to put into other heroes, and I don't have them anymore, the tomes. So it is what it is. But let's go to some gameplay footage I recorded of the arena, and let me show you each of these abilities on each of these heroes. All right, so this first one, I'm going to show you Flint. And to show you Flint's skills, I actually put him in the back row. I normally would not do that. But I wanted him to like live long enough that you could like see what he's up to, all right? So he's attacking here, and once he gets low, his health shoots back up, which may have even already happened. Has it happened yet? Yeah, it already happened. All right, so this is my arena team, okay? And you can see he's in the sort of front left. Watch his health and watch it shoot up, all right? Ready? He's losing health. Boom, it shot up. That's what the huge health boost does, and it keeps him alive for a little longer. If I had better gear on him, that would be a much cooler effect. And while we're here, look at the healing happening on Geronimo. okay? You see him like get health up and get health up. That's Alonso healing with every one of his attacks. This is why I was suggesting earlier that like Philly would be really good with a more durable front line that I don't have. And I don't have it because I didn't invest in the widgets on those heroes because, I mean, that's a lot of widgets to work on, not gonna lie. Let me show you some of Alonso's other abilities. We'll look at him over here, okay? So periodically, did you see that blue splash? The big blue splash is his net, but that little blue splash is his second skill, which also does AoE, all right? So Alonso's countdown timer is going down. Here's his big blue skill, but any other blue you see here, boom, that's his little AoE skill, his second skill. Again, I don't know what the interval is for those to fire off, but that AoE is really, really good. And the healing that he does is completely nuts. I mean, I'm getting 10% per shot that he does, which is like just totally busted, I think. And now if we bring in Philly, let's see if you can notice the healing she does, okay? So she hasn't used her heal yet. She's about to heal. Okay, here comes the heal. So she heals all the heroes. Definitely Geronimo got a benefit of that. She's also got a disabling effect that lasts for 1 second. I mean, we'll see if we can see it. I saw Sergey like take a knee for a second. It's hard to say exactly where that came from, but it's a very quick disable. We'll see if we can. Oh yeah, Sergey got hit again. I mean, it's there. I'm not sure if she's doing it or maybe that's coming from Alonso, but it's a very minimal effect, I would say. So if you wanted to see the heal of Philly, I can bring this down to a frame by frame. Flint is kind of still in there, and you can see his health just shoots up a little bit. And it's nice, but like, I think that this scales a lot better when you have more hero gear and more widget progression. I think that's where I'm at with Philly. Okay, I think she's very good. Don't get me wrong. But I think she scales or is more effective with like just super, super tanky other heroes to go with her. And Flint is that. He is that. But like, I don't have the gear for that. I don't have the widgets for that. And so I'm not experiencing the upside that could be there yet. And it makes sense. Like a healer that's in the back line needs a tanky front line to be healing. Right? It makes sense. All right. So long story short, my priorities for Gen 2, if I were doing it all over again, I would say Alonso is beautiful. Doing literally everything I wanted that fishmonger to do, man. Dude is a beast. I think maybe he's a fisherman more than a fishmonger. Then Flint, I would say, is really good if you were free to play. Like slam dunk if you're free to play. Because you don't have Natalia, you don't have Geronimo. And if you didn't do Natalia or Geronimo, Flint is just a no-brainer. He's so good. And you can get him from the wheel and you can spin him. And then that brings us to Philly, right? And Philly is just an incremental upgrade stat-wise over Molly. And Molly is so good that I completely understand now why people were saying, maybe you just do Molly, invest early, enjoy that early, and then skip in the Philly. But I'll get Philly. I'm going to work on her. It's just going to take me a little longer. I'm probably not going to commit more Mythic General Shards to her. I don't think I'm going to use her in the capture of the Sunfire. I don't think so, but we'll see. Subscribe if that's what you want to see. And if you're looking for more advice on Generation 1 and the Generation 1 arena meta, I'll have a card off to the side in just a second. I think that leading up to this moment in time, the sort of advice about Gen 1 that you'll find in that video is really good, especially for arena. So I hope you'll enjoy it. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.